Councillors in the Johannesburg Metro have voted in favour of giving themselves salary increases while residents are battling rising tariffs and a potential collapse in service delivery in some areas. The ANC and DA voted in favour while the EFF and ActionSA were opposed. For more on this, let's speak to the Democratic Alliance's Joburg Council caucus leader, Belinda Kayser-Echeozonjoku. Very good evening to you, Belinda. Welcome back to News at Prime. So why do councillors in Johannesburg deserve any kind of increase?
Good evening, Tembakile, and good evening to your viewers. Let me just clarify that these are upper limits that have been approved through COCTA, and it's not the first time that this happens. And also the increase is 3.8%, which is much lower than the inflation rate. I also just want to clarify that the upper limits does not only include an increase, but it also includes training and development for councillors. The Democratic Alliance has 43 ward councillors in the city of Johannesburg, and we have 28 proportional representation councillors in the city of Johannesburg. On average, a ward councillor spends about 20 hours in a day trying to resolve issues for residents in a currently collapsed city. And it is the ward councillors who bear the brunt of these failures of the city. So I do not see any concern why there's such a big outcry at the moment when nurses and every other profession also get increases. And this is much lower than the inflation rate, considering that the petrol price has increased and considering that councillors need to use petrol to be able to do their work. They also need to use any other means to do their work. It is, in our view as a Democratic Alliance, after considering, we decided that we are in favor of the increase because it is not only about the increase, it is about the well-being of councillors.
There may be outrage at this increase, 3.8% you say it is. People may be upset about this precisely because the Johannesburg Council has become such a circus in recent years. One mayor in, one mayor out, political parties delaying the delivery of basic services while you squabble among yourselves. So perhaps that is why people don't think that councillors have earned or even deserve an increase. Are you able to understand that sentiment?
Yes, I do. Let me just also say, Tembakile, councillors are residents in the city of Johannesburg, especially ward councillors who represent their residents in the city of Johannesburg. They also have to put in the city of Johannesburg. Councillors get what you call a stipend, which is not really much considering the amount of work that goes into what councillors do. Just last week, we had a situation where a councillor was physically assaulted at a public meeting where officials who are supposed to be the implementers of some of the work are supposed to also be present, and they get a whole lot of much more money than councillors get. So I understand the sentiment, but I also want everyone to understand that councillors are also residents who also have to pay their rates, who are as outraged about the increase and the valuations and everything that happens in the city of Johannesburg. So that is why we're saying that it's not only about the increase, it's about the upper limits, which includes the well-being of councillors, includes the training and development.
Salvo, Belinda, for residents in Johannesburg who look around and see sewage spilled across their street, Joburg residents who look at the streets and see potholes that have been there for over a year in some cases, street lights that in some instances are not working, people who say, well, I'm not even able to reach my ward councillor since the vote. So for those people, it is a bit of an insult, basically a slap in the face.
Let me just say, Tembakile, I'm a ward councillor. And one of the reasons why residents sometimes, especially in my ward, let me just use myself as an example. And this is what I put on the WhatsApp groups, which I use for my residents. Most of the time I use various social media platforms to be able to either be accessible to my residents or for them to be able to reach out to me. Half of the time at the moment, councillors are on the phone trying to escalate service delivery issues. I get an average of about 1,200 WhatsApps in a day. And I'm not even mentioning the call. So the struggle that residents are feeling to get hold of some of our councillors is also the struggle that councillors are feeling getting hold of the city to be able to escalate some of the issues that you are mentioning. It is frustrating, and it's as frustrating to us as ward councillors in the city as it is for the residents. And that is why we are saying we need to start afresh. We need to call for the dissolution of council. That way, none of us will get a salary, but then each one of us will have to prove our worth when people are going back to the ballot box.
And I'm looking now, I think News 24 has done actually a block where they basically explain the upper limits of the annual total remuneration packages of full-time councillors. What those numbers are, the executive mayor, they say, will now go from 1.5, is now in fact 1.5 million rand. That's the annual package, up from just over 1.4 million. The Speaker will now earn just over 1.2 million per annum. The members of the Executive Committee or Mayoral Committee or the Whip, they'll make about 1.1 million as well. And the chairpersons of oversight committees will earn around 1.1 million as well. When you look at that money, how do the councillors then, given the sentiment that you and I have been discussing among the people of Johannesburg, how do councillors earn that? How do they then make it up to people who have been so frustrated by the shenanigans in council, who say all they want, basically, whether it's from the DA, the ANC, the PA, the EFF, all they want is for Johannesburg to work, to be clean, to be safe?
And that is exactly what we want as the Democratic Alliance as well. We are not happy with what is currently happening in the city, where we have a mayor who's now going to earn that kind of money. And that is why we're saying if anyone who has an objection to this increase should join the Democratic Alliance call to say, let us dissolve council. Let's vote to give us that 2/3 to dissolve council. Then for 90 days, none of us will earn any of that money while we campaign to earn back the trust of our voters, and they press the reset button and we start afresh. Any person who is not in favor of the current upper limit that have been approved in council have the option to council and write a letter to say that they are rejecting it and please that they must not implement the upper limits. What is very interesting, Tembekile, just to note as well, is that the EFF voted against the upper limits, but yet we have two MMCs who are EFF.
Belinda, are you still with us? Okay, I think we've lost Belinda from the DA, the caucus leader here in Johannesburg. We've lost her. We're talking about these upper limit increases for councillors in the city of Johannesburg.